Imagine you have a great idea that, if it works, could change your life. That's what happened to Ryan Grepper. Ryan Grepper had this idea to gather some items in a cooler. He added a waterproof speaker, a blender capable of breaking ice, a bottle opener, and other utilities that might be needed. For example, if you want to go on a picnic. It was quite an idea, but Ryan didn't have the money to start his company, and he didn't have a sponsor either, until he found Kickstarter. In case you don't know what is it, Kickstarter is a platform where people put their projects on, and if it works, the project receives money from many people around the world. A curiosity is that Kickstarter has already managed to leverage more than $7 billion. So, on July 8, 2014, Ryan Grepper creates a project on Kickstarter, which he named Coolest Cooler, and surprisingly, it was a success. Ryan Grepper demanded $125,000 to start production on the Coolest Cooler. This money even seems to be impossible. However, amazingly, the Coolest Cooler was so successful that it managed to break the goal in less than 2 days. The next day, the project reached the goal of $1 million, an unimaginable goal. Coolest Cooler was so successful that it became Kickstarter's most funded project. And on August 30, 2014, 53 days into the project, Coolest Cooler closes its funding, with over $13 million raised on Kickstarter. From here begins the destruction of the Coolest company. Before continuing, I ask you to please consider subscribing to the channel. This would help me a lot, as I am always working to bring you fun and informative content. Now, let's see what happened to Coolest, and see what went wrong. Coolest Cooler had a roadmap, which is a kind of a map, made to organize goals. In Coolest's roadmap, there are several stages, from project financing to cooler delivery. Between July and August 2014, Coolest wanted two things. The first is, obviously, the financing of the cooler, which, as you know, worked very well. The second thing is to make agreements with manufacturing companies, so Coolest could have a plan to manufacture their cooler. Between September and October, Coolest aimed to finish its prototypes and started looking for raw materials to build its product. Between November and December, Coolest planned the production of coolers, and finally, between January and February 2015, they planned to finish the assembly process and start shipping the coolers. It was a perfect plan, if it had been completed, isn't it? But, before we continue, an important point you should know are the rewards. In Kickstarter, you can create rewards, which unlock the more you help the project. If you donated more than $200, you would receive a Coolest Cooler, and the price Coolest planned to sell the cooler was $300. So whoever got the reward would practically get a $100 discount. The real problem is that Ryan spontaneously decided to update the project, with a new battery, a custom speaker, a new blender, stronger materials, faster performance, among others. Ryan wouldn't be able to add that much at once, and still have the same price and date limit, so he decides to change a few things. The Coolest Cooler would now sell for $400, a $100 addition, and the deadline, which was February 2015, would be changed to a date in the summer of 2015, possibly July, which means that the launch of the Coolest Cooler would be almost at the same time as the project would be 1 year old. What about the people who have already donated the $200 or more? What happens to them? Ryan said that he would give away the updated cooler for free to all the people who had already donated on Kickstarter, which means that these people would receive the cooler for half the price. In short, the Coolest Cooler is a product that was looking to change its industry. However, after a great success in raising funds, its creator, Ryan, began to add updates to the product that, in addition to the price being increased, the product's shipping date was changed to 3 months later. He also promises people who donated their money that he would deliver updated coolest coolers to them. In June of 2015, 1 month before the start of the Coolest Cooler shipments, Ryan Grepper announced that most of the backers' coolers would arrive only in the fall. In case you didn't know, backers are the people who donate on Kickstarter. The backers, obviously, felt disappointed, as they have been waiting almost 1 year for the product. And now they find out that they will have to wait even longer. And then, finally, on July 24, 2015, 1 year and 16 days after starting his Kickstarter project, Ryan Grepper announced that the first Coolest Coolers are being shipped. And it seems to end here. A startup that went through some problems, but managed, after a lot of work and effort, to overcome each one of the problems. But, unfortunately, it doesn't end there. Only 400 coolers fit into each container, which is nothing compared to the 62,000 people who are waiting for the coolers. How would they be able to ship the coolers? As always, Coolest announced that nearly half of people would not receive the coolers until October. To make matters worse, a few months later, in November 2015, the factory that made the Coolest Cooler engine goes on strike indefinitely. Coolest then, because of all these problems, decides to simply push their products on Amazon for $500. Remembering that Ryan had promised the backers that they were priority and that they would receive coolers first than everyone else. On the one hand, we have Coolest, a small startup that planned to raise enough funds to make just a few hundred coolers, but ended up going viral, causing over 60,000 people to donate their money. On the other hand, we have the backers, who are the people who donated their money to Coolest. They, after 1 year of dissatisfaction and waiting, started to receive their coolers, even if only a few. Do you think Coolest can reverse this whole situation? It seems so, as, in December 2015, Coolest announces that the factory strike has been resolved, and that full production will begin the very next month. And then, in February 2016, a month ahead of the estimated time Coolest promised to deliver the coolers, Ryan Grepper announced that Coolest has literally spent all of the money they have earned from Kickstarter, and they still haven't finished making the coolers that the backers wanted. How will Coolest now be able to deliver the remaining coolers? Either they declare bankruptcy, or they simply ask the backers to donate $100, which is what they did in the 12th of April. In April 2016, Ryan promises that, for people who paid the $100, Coolest would deliver the coolers before the 4th of July, which is the US Independence Day. Surprisingly, 10,000 people accepted to donate. During April and May, Ryan and his company focused pretty much everything on delivering the coolers to the people who donated the $100, while the other backers would be kept waiting. On June 28, Ryan happily announced that Coolest has managed to deliver the 10,000 coolers to the backers who donated the $100. In September 2016, after receiving over 300 consumer complaints that year, the Oregon Department of Justice launched an investigation into Coolest for possible violations of the Unlawful Commercial Practice Act, which means that Coolest was in a very bad situation. A few months later, in June of 2017, Coolest entered into an agreement with the Oregon Department of Justice, in which it was that Coolest had to deliver the coolers they owed to the backers. Between 2017 and 2019, Coolest continued its horrible job of delivering coolers, but there were still 20,000 coolers to deliver. And then, to end this saga with a golden key, Ryan Grepper and his company announced that they were shutting down because of a tariff in China, in which the products were taxed at 25% of the value. The remaining 20,000 backers wouldn't receive their coolers. However, Coolest would deliver $20 to each of the people. Yes, $20. For you to have an idea, the backers paid $200 to receive their products, and some even paid $300. In summary, the Coolest Cooler was the biggest failure on Kickstarter, while also being the second most funded project on Kickstarter, only behind the Pebble smartwatch, who, guess what? It was also discontinued, for similar reasons. Honestly, I think Kickstarter has a plague with their most funded projects. And here ends the story of the coolest cooler. I really hope you enjoyed watching it, because it took a lot of work to do, especially the research. If you can, please subscribe to the channel and leave your like on the video, I will be very happy. Also consider sharing this video if you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching this far, and see you soon!